Cage, episode 2, Code of the Streets. This is definitely a great second episode. I really enjoyed just the way they kind of went through the characters in this. I really loved. We got to see, we got our, yet another tie-in, of course, to the overall universe, but we had Turk from Daredevil, which it was funny seeing him like this because he's just, yeah, he's the criminal guy, you know, and Daredevil is like, he's the guy who sells guns and stuff like that, and he's just like that guy. But in this was him outside of, like, because every time he ran into Daredevil, it was like during him doing something, you know, illegal, or any scene with him, it's him buying something illegal, or something like that. This was, he came to Harlem, and he just came in to play chess. Like, that was it. He did some kind of dickish, you know, stuff at the end, you know, ratting out Chico, but he didn't really do any illegal stuff in this one. I was like, that's kind of funny how they did that. I never, you know, you see this character and it's like, this is him in a totally different light because he's just hanging out. He's cracking jokes with this guy and stuff, and he's like, just because they call you Bobby Fish doesn't make you Bobby Fisher. And that little back and forth that they had and stuff. And I was like, this is really funny. Like, this is so different from him in his typical element that we see him in for Daredevil. And I thought that was so funny. But I thought that was really cool that we got to see him. Of course, as I said, I hope Pops, you know, doesn't end up getting killed, but naturally he does. You know, it was from the trailers, I was like, maybe. And then, of course, this episode comes in and they're like, you know what? Why don't we kill off someone else that a random main comic character loves? So, of course, that's how it ended up playing out. If you're family or you just care, you gotta go. So, of course, he ends up dying. They did it in a crazy way, though. I didn't expect it to happen in such a drastic fashion where the whole barbershop, you know, gets destroyed. And that has me curious for episode 3 if, you know, Luke actually ends up staying there, because I assume that Pops, you know, owned the shop and then he may have had like an apartment or whatever above it possibly. So I'm curious if they'll, you know, if that location is just, you know, permanently gone, or if they do something where he tries to, you know, give back to the community himself outside of course, going into the kind of superhero mode, which is clearly, this was clearly like, you know, the catalyst. Because I was wondering, with, you know, the first 2 episodes, really, it's like, okay, you know, I saw the trailers and stuff, I know the scenes and, or, you know, some of the action scenes and stuff, and it's like, what really got him into doing that? Because the whole first episode and most of the second episode is kind of like, he doesn't really seem to care that much. He's kind of like, I want to stay out of that world because of whatever happened, you know, with these flashbacks and stuff. So, you know, what's really the deal there? Like, what really got him going? And then we find out it's like, okay, naturally, once again, the person that cared for him gets killed in front of him, no less. And so it's like, alright, things have got to change. So he's got to take out the 2 villains. And we actually find out the relationship between the, you know, our 2 villains, and we have like really our main villain and then his cousin who's doing some illegal stuff, but she's not really like a villain. She's just kind of helping him be more of a villain is really how it is. But I like the way they have their character dynamic, because I thought for sure they'd probably do it where it's like, even how Luke Cage said, he was like, you know, they're an aunt and a nephew is how it seemed just because of, you know, their age, really. I was like, no, they're actually just cousins. And I was like, that's kind of cool, because normally it is something like that, of course. You know, you could kind of tell from the beginning that they weren't mother and son, but I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, I like the fact that they're cousins, because it's either they're related, like one person's the parent, or it's an aunt. Like, those seem to be the only things. It can't ever just be like, yeah, they're just friends or they're just cousins. Like this, I don't think I've ever seen that where 2 people are like very different ages and it's like, yeah, we just met and just became friends or something. That I think would have been very unique actually. But this in itself I thought was cool. It's of course a super small part of their story, but I always like, even little changes, I always find it unique. So I thought that was pretty cool. I like, you know, what we got to see the characters kind of advancing, even just in this, you know, second episode. I feel like a lot of advancements happen. We got to see a lot more of Mercedes, they call her Mystic, I think is her name, or the name that she prefers to go by. So we got to see a lot more of her doing her detective work and stuff. We got to see her, like, you know, playing basketball and stuff and, like, just making the fool out of that kid. And then, I don't know if this was just a cool shot, and it was something that I heard in like a random nerdy show. As it was like a promo for Luke, where they're like, "Oh, we're gonna talk to the people from Luke Cage." Excuse me, and I was like, I'm curious now if she's supposed to actually have powers where she can actually see stuff, or if that was just a really awesome scene. So maybe they'll explain that. I don't know. Based on what I'm remembering from that promo, I'm like, I think she might actually have powers, but he just said her nickname, so it doesn't really mean that much. So I don't know. That could be a thing. Cause like I said, I would love it if that was kind of how they used her character whenever certain scenes like that happen throughout the season. I would love that because I think that's visually a really cool thing where she kind of goes through the um, the whole situation, and she's just in the middle, kind of looking at everyone and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. I even like the way they did the editing, where they had the body on the ground, and then when they pan up, it's actually still inside of the police department. I think they just actually had the guy on the bench or something, and then they just pan up. So I was like, that's kind of cool. They just kind of a nice little trick to play there. But I like what they did in this one, and of course, Luke finds out the truth about this auditor, that he slept with in the last episode. So I thought that was kind of funny, and he didn't really pull any punches either. He wasn't 100% blunt, but he was like 85 to 90% blunt. Like, oh, seems like you found some new clothes to audit in and stuff like that. So he was making some really obvious hints towards them having known each other beforehand. But I was like, all right, I like that. Like I said, the ending I thought was pretty nuts, and we have, I can't even remember the guy's name. Tone was the guy's name who died. So he and Shades, get the information from Turk, and they just take off. And Shades is kind of like, even when they're in the car, he's kind of joking with him and stuff, but he's like, and laughing at him, and he's like, you're at least going to wait for him to come out, right? And he doesn't say anything. And I remember watching, I was like, I don't think he's going to wait. And I certainly didn't think he would do it the way he did. Like, he just went right in front of the door and just shot the place up. I didn't think he'd be that crazy with it, because the way they played it, even though, which is so stupid, even though Chico came out like this little kid, like, there's no TV back there, I was bored and stuff, which was kind of funny because Luke got like super mad, like, are you serious? Right after that, Tone started to shoot the place up, so I don't think he was waiting to even see if he was there. I don't think he could have seen that in like the 2 seconds it took him to like walk down the steps and then just aim and start shooting off like 2 SMGs. So I don't know if he actually saw him or what the deal was, but he lights the place up. 2 people survive, not counting Luke. Like, Luke saves the kid, and then the other guy was like, I think he was like behind Chico when Chico was like coming through the door. That's where that other guy was, and he was just like, I'm lucky to be alive. He just happened to be behind everybody, so he just jumped in the back. And it was such a crazy scene. Like I said, they shoot up the whole place, so I'm really curious if it's even going to be in there, in the rest of the season. But I thought it was cool. It's kind of a sad scene because I actually did like Pops, and we got a little bit of backstory on him, why he's called Pops, why Cottonmouth is also called Cottonmouth. We find out who Chico's dad was and stuff like that, which is kind of a reference. Well, they make a reference to it in the first episode where Chico's like, are you, I want to say his name is like Wilfredo. And he's like, are you Wilfredo Diaz? And he's like, my dad took off on me when I was 9, so I didn't need him then, and then I don't need you now. So we actually get to learn what happened to his dad, where he went from selling crack to smoking crack. Pops went to jail for 10 years, and Cottonmouth was kind of the guy who didn't get busted, and so he was just left to kind of grow from that situation where one guy died and the other went to jail. And then when Pops finally came out, he decided to change his ways and open up the shop to try to help other people because he realized how crappy his life was beforehand. So I like getting that bit of story. Of course, once again, another really common trend once someone, especially the elder character, tells you their backstory and we're like, oh, we know more about you. That's when we find out we learned everything about them because they get killed. But I certainly enjoyed the episode. I thought the way they did kind of just that ending scene, I like the way it was shot. It's just done in slow motion, and we see Luke run. They do like a couple of shots where he gets hit. I thought that was really cool. We got to see a lot more of the dynamic between. I still can't remember the main villain's name, which is super funny. I remember like the lackeys, but I can't remember like. All I can remember is Cottonmouth. Like, I think he likes to be called Stokes or something like that, Mr. Stokes. But I'll just go with Cottonmouth and his cousin. We get to see a really great dynamic between the two of them, and we see her. Early on in the episode when she's like with all the kids and stuff. I don't know why they had her like touching all these kids' hair and everything. And then she has the dude just poured like the hand sanitizer. And that made me think of like the old video of George Bush when he was in Africa, and he like shook an African dude's hand and he like wiped his hand on Bill Clinton, or on Bill Clinton. I was like, that's what that made me think of. Like, wow, that's just silly. They make like a jab at Fox News, which I thought was hilarious, and the opening was really good too. The opening, which was also the ending of the episode, I really enjoyed that. That was a great ending to the episode, and just there was a lot there. As someone who's black, I appreciate it probably more than some other people might, but I thought it was a really great ending, and as well as opening once they, it all came together. It was really great. But definitely love this second episode. I'm very excited to get into the third, which seems, I was curious, like, okay, how are things going to continue on? And it seems like these first two episodes kind of already dealt with that whole first thing, and now we're getting into the rest of the series because we had the really big catalyst for Luke, and now he's going to get into like his real superhero thing. We still have kind of the main stuff with Chico because we find out that he didn't actually end up getting killed. He just got hurt, and they might save that for a couple more episodes, and then he'll wake up. But I'm sure, because at this point at least, Cottonmouth believes that, he's dead. And the cops will most likely keep that, like, oh yeah, these people died. They probably wouldn't release that he actually is in, like, critical condition. Hopefully, because sometimes, every once in a while when it's, like, relevant like that, like, oh, if we let this be known, he'll die, they can actually keep that stuff hidden from the news. So I feel like that's how it'll play out, and they'll keep him protected, maybe for a little bit, maybe somehow, be someone on the inside, they'll find out, and Cottonmouth will, learn the truth, and then, that'll be a bit of an issue, mostly for Shades, of course, because Tone was tossed off a building by the end of the episode, but maybe to be a bit of an issue with Shades and how that could connect back to Cottonmouth. So we'll have to see how that stuff plays out. We still didn't really get any sort of connection between Luke and Shades. It was just like, they had that moment where they actually talk, and they don't really make it known that they know each other in front of everyone else. So maybe we'll have to wait for another scene a little later, and maybe we'll just flat out have to wait for the flashback so we learn what he was framed for and how he got his powers and stuff. Because I know that was in one of the trailers as well, where we actually do get to see at some point this season the scene where he flat out comes out of the cage or out of the tank, where he actually has, his superpower. So don't know how far, and we're gonna have to, get that. But I'm kind of excited to see. They kind of keep it super secretive at this point. It's like, oh, he met Shades. In the first episode, he mentioned, he didn't mention, but Mystic, she mentioned, like, oh, you talk in your sleep, and he said Shades, and I think she said, like, Kamachi or something like that. So we have at least one other name for a character that we haven't seen yet, but I'm excited to see where they take it. I like the characters that they have so far. Sadly, they killed off a really cool character. I really did like Pops. I thought he was actually pretty sweet, and I'm excited to see where they take it, because, like I said, this was clearly the catalyst, and Luke has decided, I lost someone who was important to me, and this man stood up for the community and stuff like that, and he lost his life trying to do the right thing, as where I, the bulletproof man, kind of just wanted to blend in with everyone else, and he talks about Atticus and everything. So I thought that was really good, and like I said, I'm excited to see, where the season continues on into, or what it continues on into. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, with the death of Pops, I have to ask if you guys are affected by that, if you really liked his character, if you didn't mind that his character was killed off. I would have preferred if he lived. In all honesty, I feel like they could have done that, and, it just could have been different. Of course, it had to be the catalyst for Luke, which, like I said, very common in all of superhero comics. So no real shock there once it happened, and that was the big thing, and I guess that's why it's so common. Even when the first trailer came out, it was kind of like, man, I sure hope he lives. He's that, father figure, mentor character, and it's like, oh, I hope you make it. So sadly, the story continues. It's just the way it is. It just keeps happening. If you're older and you help the main character, and typically you also happen to be the same sex, I feel like that tends to be the same thing too. It's always like a guy with a male mentor or a woman with a female mentor, and that's how it always ends up happening. It's never like, both sexes. It's just one sex, and the older person has to die, and that's just how it is. But still enjoyed it. Like I said, I personally would have preferred if he survived, or if they did it and, maybe he went into a coma, or if he got shot up in general and he just lived. I still think that would have been a bit of a catalyst. It probably wouldn't have worked as well for that ending dialogue because of the actual death part, but I still would have loved to have seen him survive because I like this character a lot. But still enjoyed the episode. It's not like it's gonna make me stop watching. Like, oh, they killed Pops. Like I'm still gonna watch it because I love the characters. Great villains. Excited to see Luke Cage become an actual hero in this because he was kind of just he did his thing like he when he found Chico in this episode, which was a great moment. I almost skipped over that, but when Chico actually came back and Pops got mad at him, he like pushed him against the wall, and then both started crying. That was actually a really great moment. I was like, man, that was a really good moment. And also during the death scene, I don't know the actual name of the actor who did Pops, but he did like a great death scene. Like it was like, man, he really seems like he's choking on his own blood. But they did some great stuff, and Luke was actually doing his hero thing where he went and found Chico, and he mentioned it was like it took me 4 hours to do this, and I don't know why he did this, but him like kicking the door down, I thought was really funny because I'm like he could have like twisted the door off or done something simple to break in, but he's like nope, boom, and he just kicks the whole door down, and I'm like, well, I don't. Okay, like Chico would have to leave at that point, like he's literally just completely exposed, but. I like getting to see that, that little bit of the hero side, and now he's clearly going to go full force in it. But really enjoyed it. I don't know why I threw my remote down on the ground like that, but love this episode. I actually like this one more than I like the first one, but great episode in general. The singer for this episode, which my girlfriend actually pointed out to me, was Faith Evans, who is Biggie's wife, or former wife. I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't realize that until she pointed it out to me, but I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And and I was curious. I was like, I wonder if they're gonna have, if they're gonna have like a singing moment in every single episode. I think that would be very cool. I know the episodes are supposed to be based on like old hip hop songs and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool in itself. But I like the music that they've done so far. Personally, I like the first episode's music a little better than the song that they had in this one, but. I think it would be really great if they had that where every episode it was just like a cool, music moment and stuff. And they always have something that, it fits with the song, and they'll just have either people talking and it works, or in this one it was kind of cutting back and forth between a couple of different situations. So I was like, alright, that definitely works as well. But excited to see what they do with the music because I think they've done a pretty good job and really enjoying it so far. But like I said, definitely want to know how you guys feel about Pops' death, and of course what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.